A young man, running from his past, meets a barefoot girl locked in her own silence. Two lives, broken by their own worlds, collide in a small, quiet mental hospital. One act of bravery will change everything, turning their escape into a dangerous game of love, lies, and survival. But the truth they both run from may be the very thing that pulls them together, or tears them apart forever. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. Jonah stood at the gate of Pinefield Care Center, holding a mop and a folded uniform in his arms. The air smelled faintly of pine and bleach. This was not where he imagined himself ending up. Not after the life he once lived. His suit days were over. Now he was a janitor at a small mental health facility tucked deep in the countryside. His shoes crunched softly against the gravel as he walked toward the entrance. The building looked calm from the outside, surrounded by trees and silence, but Jonah's mind wasn't calm. He was here because he had no other choice. His father had cut him off after years of partying, reckless spending, and bad decisions. Jail time and unpaid debts followed. Pinefield was his last stop before complete ruin. Inside, a nurse handed him a list of tasks: clean floors, empty bins, stay out of the patient's way. He nodded, barely listening. As he began his shift, sweeping one corridor after another, something outside the window caught his eye. In the courtyard, sitting cross-legged on the grass, was a girl. She looked young, maybe in her early 20s. Her hair was tied in two loose braids and she had no shoes. Barefoot, she sat still, her fingers moving gently over flower petals as if they were made of glass. Jonah stopped. Something about her presence pulled him in, the way she tilted her head to listen to the wind, the way she whispered to a butterfly perched on her finger. It was strange, but not in a bad way. It was peaceful. Later, during a short break, he passed by the courtyard again. She was still there. Their eyes met briefly. She gave him the smallest smile and then looked away. "Who is she?" he asked a nurse nearby. "Her name is Lena," the nurse replied softly. "She's been here a while. Quiet, keeps to herself, prefers the garden, doesn't like shoes." Jonah nodded and moved on, but her image stayed with him. That night, as his shift was ending, Jonah walked past the dimly lit hallway near the east wing. A soft sound stopped him. It was a cry, muffled and desperate. He hesitated, then followed it. He reached a room with the door slightly ajar. Inside, he saw Lena curled in a corner, eyes wide with fear. Standing above her was a male orderly, reaching out with cold intent. Time seemed to slow. Jonah didn't think. He acted. He stormed into the room and grabbed the man's shoulder. "Get away from her," he growled. The man tried to shove him, but Jonah fought back. The noise drew more staff and soon the hallway was full. The orderly was taken away. Lena sat frozen, breathing fast, her hands shaking. Jonah knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he said, voice gentle. She looked at him, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." He stood, unsure of what to do next. "You should go back to your room." She nodded slowly but didn't move. He turned to leave, walking through the empty halls, heart pounding. He didn't want to care. He had enough trouble already. But something about her, her softness, her silence, stayed with him. Outside, the night air was cool. The stars above were sharp and clear. Jonah walked toward the bus stop just past the hospital gate. "Wait," came a voice behind him. He turned. It was Lena, barefoot, wearing a simple sweater and skirt, her arms crossed, as if to protect herself. "You shouldn't be out here," he said, alarmed. "They'll be looking for you." She said nothing. He sighed. "You can't just follow me. I don't know what you want." Lena looked at the sky, then back at him. "I don't want to go back inside. Not tonight." Jonah looked around, unsure. "It's not safe." "Neither is inside," she whispered. His heart sank. He didn't know her story, but he believed her. "Where are your shoes?" "I don't like them. They feel like cages." He exhaled slowly. Okay, look. I'll give you some money for a cab. Go somewhere safe. He handed her a folded bill. She took it but didn't move. You have family? He asked. She shook her head. No one. Jonah turned to walk away. 1 step, 2 steps. Then he stopped. He looked back at her. She was standing still, clutching the bill like it was the last thing she owned, her face filled with hope and fear. Come on, he said quietly. You can stay with me tonight. Just until we figure something out. She nodded, and as they walked into the quiet night together, Jonah realized something had shifted. She wasn't just a barefoot girl from the hospital anymore. She had already begun to change his life. He just didn't know it yet. The sun rose quietly over the hills, casting a soft light through the motel window. Jonah sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the sleeping girl beside him. Lena curled up on the far end of the mattress, holding a pillow like it was a piece of safety. Her bare feet stuck out from beneath the blanket. He hadn't slept much. Everything felt wrong and right at the same time. He'd only meant to help her for one night. But now, with her so near, he felt responsible. He remembered his father's voice from a few weeks ago. If you want to come home for the engagement party, bring a girlfriend. No girlfriend, don't bother showing up. The words had seemed like a joke then. But now, looking at Lena, an idea began to take shape in his mind. Later that morning, Jonah gently woke her. We have to go, he said. She rubbed her eyes, looked around, and nodded. As they walked to the bus station, Jonah asked, Have you ever flown before? No, Lena replied, staring at the sky. I've only ever dreamed of it. Well, he said, trying to smile, we're flying today. At the airport, Lena was both amazed and confused. She stared at the moving walkways, laughed at the luggage carts, and whispered questions about every small thing. Jonah answered the ones he could and watched her with quiet wonder. The flight was not smooth. First, she got stuck in the airplane restroom because she couldn't figure out how to open the door from the inside. Then, while Jonah was dozing off, she wandered into first class and began eating a plate of food that wasn't hers. When the flight attendant came over, Lena simply smiled and said, This one tastes better. Jonah apologized quickly, guiding her back to their seats. You're going to get us kicked off, he said, trying not to laugh. Sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. Despite the trouble, her excitement was real. She pressed her face to the window, watching the clouds like they were magic. Jonah couldn't help but feel a little lighter beside her. When they landed, the two took a taxi through the city, heading toward the Wheaton estate, Jonah's childhood home. As the mansion appeared at the end of the long road, Lena's eyes widened. This is your house? She asked. Used to be, he said softly. At the door, Jonah's mother, Maris, opened her arms with surprise. Jonah, she gasped. And who's this lovely girl? This is Lena, he replied, keeping his voice steady. My girlfriend. Maris hugged her warmly. Come in, come in. Inside, the house was full of flowers and music, preparing for Jonah's younger brother's engagement celebration. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except Jonah's father, Ronald, who stood near the staircase with arms crossed. Ronald's eyes moved to Lena's bare feet. Doesn't she have shoes? He asked, raising an eyebrow. She prefers not to wear them, Jonah answered quickly. Some kind of natural balance thing. Before Ronald could ask more, Maris pulled them toward the dining room. Come, she said. Tell us all about your life. As they sat for lunch, Jonah began weaving a story. He told them he worked at the hospital in a high role, that he was leading a small project with future growth. He painted a picture of progress and purpose. And I need a bit of support, he added casually. An investment. Ronald leaned back. You want money? Jonah looked down at his plate. I want a chance. The room went silent, but then Lena cleared her throat. Everyone turned to her. She spoke slowly. He may not be perfect, but he's trying. Sometimes people need someone who believes in them. Ronald stared at her, unreadable. You're a quiet one, he said, but you speak wisely. That night after dinner, Jonah walked Lena to the guest room. The hallway was quiet. Only the soft ticking of a clock echoed in the background. "Why, did you say that?" he asked. "Because it's true," she said. He paused. "You really believe in me?" "I do." He opened his mouth to respond but said nothing. Instead, he just looked at her, the way her hair fell across her shoulders, the calm in her eyes. "Good night, Lena." "Good night, Jonah." As he walked back to his old room, Jonah felt something stir inside him. Not guilt, not regret, hope. She wasn't just helping him get back home. She was quietly rebuilding him. And somehow, he didn't want the act to end. The wedding day arrived with golden sunshine spilling across the lawns. Soft music played in the garden and laughter filled the air. Jonah stood at the edge of the crowd, dressed in a suit that didn't feel like his anymore. Beside him, Lena looked around with wide eyes, wearing a pale yellow dress his mother had chosen for her. She looked beautiful, even with no shoes. As guests gathered for the ceremony, a young girl walked down the aisle, tossing flower petals from a small basket. Everyone watched her with smiles. But suddenly Lena stepped forward. She knelt and began picking up the petals one by one, her expression full of quiet care. People turned their heads. Whispers started. Jonah rushed to her. "Lena," he said, gently. "She's supposed to drop them. It's part of the ceremony." Lena looked up, confused. "But they're so pretty." It felt wrong to leave them. "I know," he said with a small smile. "But it's okay. Come back to your seat." She stood and followed him back, brushing the petals off her hands. Meanwhile, at the edge of the crowd, a man in a dark suit had been watching. His name was Mr. Talbot, an old family friend and business partner of Jonah's father. His eyes stayed on Lena, narrowing. Later that evening, during the ballroom celebration, Jonah stepped away to speak with one of the waiters. When he returned, Lena was no longer at their table. He found her on the dance floor, moving awkwardly in the arms of Mr. Talbot. Jonah's heart pounded. Talbot spoke softly, his words sharp behind his pleasant smile. "So, Miss Lena, how long have you and Jonah known each other?" "Not long," she replied truthfully. "And what does he do at the hospital?" "I don't really know," she said. "How interesting," Talbot murmured. "You don't know much about the man you live with?" Lena's breath grew short. She didn't understand the trap she had walked into. Her hand started to tremble. Then she collapsed. Jonah ran forward, pushing through the dancers. "Lena!" He caught her just before she hit the ground. He lifted her in his arms and walked out of the room, ignoring the whispers behind him. They got into his father's vintage RV parked outside. As they drove away from the glowing mansion, Lena sat beside him in silence. Her fingers played with the hem of her dress. The city lights faded behind them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," Jonah said. "It's not your fault." He didn't mention the look on Talbot's face or the questions that would follow. They both knew something had changed. On the open road, Lena came back to life. She pressed her face to the window, watching trees and signs blur by. To her, it felt like an adventure. For Jonah, it felt like a mistake waiting to happen. He pulled into a quiet bus station as the sky turned dark. "We should stop here," he said. "Just for a bit." He handed her some money. "I need to make a call," he added. "Wait here, okay?" Lena nodded, though her eyes searched his face like they were looking for the truth behind his words. Jonah turned and walked away, but he didn't call anyone. He just got into the RV and drove. He told himself it was for the best. If he was caught with her, things would get worse. He could be arrested. He had no way to protect her. Still, every mile he drove felt heavier than the last. Then his phone rang. It was Dr. Menley from Pinefield Care Center. "You need to bring Lena back," the doctor said. Her mother had severe delusions. She was never allowed outside. "Lena's not dangerous, but she needs support. We're worried about her state of mind." Jonah stared at the road. "She seems fine." "That's not enough," Dr. Menley replied. "If something happens, you'll be held responsible." After the call ended, Jonah looked down. In the passenger seat were Lena's shoes, the ones she refused to wear. He turned the RV around, but by the time he reached the station, she was gone. He searched nearby streets, checked small shops, even asked a tired-looking staff member at the front desk. "Barefoot girl?" the woman said. "She left just a little while ago, asked for help getting home." Jonah felt like he had been punched in the chest. He drove slowly through the quiet streets until he spotted her. Lena was standing at a corner, holding the money he gave her in one hand and a small paper map in the other. Her eyes looked tired, but when she saw him, she smiled. He pulled over and jumped out. "I'm sorry," he said out of breath. "I shouldn't have left." She didn't say anything, just walked to him and hugged him tightly. He knew then that this wasn't just about guilt. He didn't want to lose her. They got back in the RV, neither said much, but their silence was full of meaning. Somewhere in the distance, police scanners picked up reports of a janitor who had taken a patient, but for now, the two of them were together, on the run, but also, finally, free. The RV rolled down the empty road, its tires humming against the asphalt. Jonah sat in the driver's seat, eyes focused on the winding path ahead. Lena was beside him, staring out the window at the endless fields that stretched on for miles. The sky was a soft shade of purple, the last light of the day sinking into the horizon. Neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt both heavy and comforting, like the world was holding its breath. Jonah's mind kept racing, but he tried not to let it show. Everything had changed, and yet, nothing felt completely real. After driving for hours, they reached a small, quiet town. Jonah found a deserted parking lot and pulled the RV to a stop. He turned off the engine and glanced at Lena. She was still looking out the window, lost in her thoughts. "You okay?" he asked, his voice quiet. Lena turned to him with a small smile, though her eyes were filled with sadness. "I'm fine," she said softly. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About everything. About how my life was before and how it feels now. It's all so different. I never imagined I'd be here. With you." Jonah looked at her, his heart tightening. He couldn't find the right words to say. Everything about their journey felt impossible. But it also felt like it was meant to be. They had both found something in each other. Something real. Something deep. He had never imagined he could care for someone like this. And now, here they were, running from everything, yet somehow finding peace together. "We'll figure it out," he finally said. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out." Lena nodded, but her gaze drifted back out the window. She wasn't sure if she could ever feel safe again. She had been locked away for so long, her life controlled by a mother who was both protective and cruel. But now with Jonah, she was free. Free, but still lost. As the night stretched on, they drove on through the quiet countryside, their only company the low hum of the engine and the soft glow of the headlights cutting through the darkness. Though, next morning Jonah woke up to the sound of birds singing outside. He stretched and rubbed his eyes, then glanced at Lena. She was sitting by the window again, staring at the rising sun. "Good morning," he said, his voice groggy. Lena turned to him with a smile. "Good morning. It's a beautiful day." They packed up the RV and continued their journey. As they drove through new towns and across endless stretches of road, Jonah noticed how much Lena had changed. She had started to laugh more, to smile more. Her shoulders weren't as tense, her eyes less wary. She was still the same innocent girl, but now there was a lightness to her, a sense of hope that had been missing before. They spent their days on the road, stopping at small diners, filling up at gas stations, and exploring the quiet corners of towns they passed through. Sometimes, they would just park the RV in a peaceful spot and sit outside watching the stars. They talked about their past, their hopes, their fears. Jonah told Lena about his family, his mistakes, and how he had ended up as a janitor. Lena, in turn, shared pieces of her life. How her mother had kept her locked away. How she had never known what it meant to be truly free. But through it all, there was an unspoken bond between them. They didn't need to explain everything. They understood each other in a way no one else could. One evening, they arrived at a small, lively amusement park. The bright lights, the laughter, and the excitement in the air felt like a dream. Lena's eyes widened as she looked around, a childlike wonder in her gaze. "This is amazing," she whispered. "Do you want to ride the Ferris wheel?" Jonah asked. "Yes," Lena said, her voice full of excitement. "Let's do it." They spent the evening riding roller coasters, eating cotton candy, and playing games. For the first time in a long while, Lena felt like she was living, not just surviving. Her laughter echoed in Jonah's ears, and he realized just how much he had come to care for her. This wasn't just about protecting her anymore. It was about loving her, truly loving her, in a way he had never loved anyone before. As they rode the carousel, Lena looked at Jonah, her eyes shining. "This is the most beautiful day of my life," she said, her voice filled with awe. "I'm glad," Jonah replied, his heart full. "I want you to have more days like this." They sat together on the bench afterward, watching the stars again. Lena rested her head on his shoulder and Jonah wrapped his arm around her. They didn't need to say anything. Everything was clear between them. They had found something rare, something worth fighting for. But the next day, as they continued, down the road Jonah received a call. It was from Dr. Menley again. "Jonah," the doctor said, his voice stern, "you need to bring Lena back. We've been looking for her. It's only a matter of time before the authorities catch up to you." Lena, who had been listening quietly, turned to Jonah, her face pale. "You're going to take me back, aren't you?" Jonah's heart sank. He had hoped they could outrun their past, but now it seemed inevitable. He had to take her back. He couldn't risk getting caught. I have to," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Lena." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she just looked at him, her face full of hurt and confusion. "I'll never leave you," Jonah whispered, "no matter what happens." He kissed her gently on the forehead before pulling away. He knew what he had to do, but as they drove toward the hospital, a sense of dread washed over Jonah. The road ahead was uncertain, and so was their future. As the RV rolled down the road one last time, they both knew that no matter where they ended up, they would always carry each other in their hearts, like footprints in the wind, impossible to erase.